by mistake. This is what the Washington Post here. It's a pretty stunning report in the paper this morning. The NSA, they say, broke privacy rules, quoting them thousands of times every year since 2008. Some blunders were accidental. Apparently, the NSA once intercepted a bunch of phone calls from Washington, D.C. instead of Egypt. So they give us one example. They say a programming error confused the D.C. area code 202-420. That's the international dialing code for Egypt. This is one example the Post cites. Other NSA flubs were intentional, like scooping up email data from 3,000 Americans. That apparently happened back in 2011. Mistakes were listed in an NSA internal audit that only covers the Washington, D.C. area and in top secret documents from NSA leaker Edward Snowden himself. These new revelations today may contradict President Obama's recent assurances, remember he talked just last Friday, about NSA surveillance programs.
A general impression has, I think, taken hold not only among the American public but also around the world that somehow we're out there willy-nilly just sucking in information on everybody and doing what we please with it. Now, that's not the case.
Let me bring in three opinionated voices here. We have senior political commentators Ben Ferguson and Errol Lewis, and also David Sirota, columnist and radio host. Gentlemen, excellent seeing you. David Sirota, I want to begin with you, and I'm going to go through all three of you here off the top. My first question, when we look at Edward Snowden, you hear it from different camps, right? You hear traitor, you hear patriot. Here we are still clearly talking about this and debating this. Is what Snowden did in the long run good for Americans? Sirota.
Absolutely. I think he's a hero. I think today's story is vindication of the fact that he is a whistleblower. The story that was in the Washington Post today about the government breaking the law thousands of times a year in just one part of the NSA, not the whole NSA, just one part, breaking the law thousands of times per year, vindicates the idea that Edward Snowden was blowing the whistle on very real crimes. And the question is, where are the prosecutions?
We're going to get to that. Ben Ferguson, go.
I think he's a traitor, and if you're a patriot and a hero, you don't go to a communist country like Russia to hide out and beg for your existence to be able to stay there for a year. So I don't think he's a hero, but more importantly, there needs to be some oversight, yes, but a lot of these quote-unquote crimes that were committed that we found out about this morning were actually committed by computers. So I don't know if you can give a computer 10 years to life in prison, or can you give a computer the death penalty? I'm not sure you can. So this was not always human error as much as this was there were issues with the computer and how they were pulling information and data and phone calls from Americans. And I think that's very important to point out.
Okay, Errol, I want to get to you, but let me just jump to this, because the chief judge in this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, it's an acronym, lots of acronyms in the government. This is the FISC, which has the authority over some NSA operations, says that his court doesn't have the proper tools to monitor all these NSA surveillance programs and must rely on the government. So then you also have the president. Listen to this.
Now, part of the reason they're not abuses is because these checks are in place. And those abuses would be against the law and would be against the orders of the FISC.
Errol, where does that leave Americans?
It's not good enough, I think, is where it leaves us. The president, reverting to his original job as a constitutional scholar, seems to think that, well, it's all perfectly balanced. We'll have a court do the oversight and everything will be fine. But now, as you said, the head of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court says they don't have the independent means to verify whether what they are told is true or not. And he compared it to other court orders. He says the court is always dependent on the government to follow its orders. The thing is, there's no contempt that can be cited. What happens is, in secret, the intelligence agency might get sort of a reprimand months after the fact, and even that is secret. So the president's policy, I think, and what he talked about 7 days ago, I think, is pretty much done. And he's now going to go through, this administration is going to go through something akin to the stages of grief after death. You've got denial, you've got anger, you've got bargaining. And
where are we now? What stage are we in now?
I think bargaining is going to end, and we're going to get closer to acceptance.
Go ahead, Ben. Jump in.
Yeah, look, I think what we found out and what really stands out to me in this new information is there is two issues here. One, Congress either just is not paying enough attention to these issues because they are the ones that have been briefed on most of this and we're allowing it to happen. And so there should be a lot of Americans who are saying to your congressman on both sides of the aisle, where were you guys since 08, 09, 010, 11, 12? Why weren't you paying attention to this information? Because they seem to completely have no clue what the NSA is doing or how they're acting.
Except one thing. Okay, well, remember what the Washington Post said, and I'm not disagreeing with you that Congress didn't do its job. But one of the key nuggets in the Washington Post story today is that the NSA has been withholding this information from Congress. That is, even the people in the Congress who are the most pro-surveillance, Dianne Feinstein, for instance, has said, and the Intelligence Committee members have said, and the Washington Post reported, that the NSA, the Obama administration, has been withholding this. And the question is, why would the president go out on Friday and insist there's been no abuses? Is that a lie? Did he see this audit data and then simply lie? Or does he have no idea what his own government is doing?
Let me just jump in to David Sirota's point, just for our viewers, and if you haven't read this article, to the point about Dianne Feinstein. Here they specifically talk to, she is the Senate Intelligence Committee chair, who did not receive a copy of the 2012 audit until the Post asked her staff about it, right? So then she said in a statement that the committee, quote, can and should do more to independently verify the NSA's operations are appropriate, you know, yada, yada, yada. Point being, clearly, you know, she hasn't seen it. I mean, it's impossible, I would imagine, to see every single teeny tiny audit. But my question, I guess, if you have, you know, Congress and courts sort of doing this, my question, I guess, is about a watchdog. Do we need to watch the watchdog, and who's the watchdog here?
But see, I think the watchdog was supposed to be Congress, and either there's some incompetence by members of Congress, and that's probably pretty easy to agree that there are at least some incompetence, but I also think a lot of this is total lack of transparency by the Obama administration to purposely keep this information from getting to TV like it is right now, because it does not look good for the Obama administration, the administration who ran on more transparency and on limiting NSA and limiting wiretapping and limiting all these programs.
Ben, I've got a question for you, a very simple question.
Sure.
If that's true, if there hasn't been enough transparency, and I agree with you, there hasn't been enough transparency, how can you then call Edward Snowden a traitor? Edward Snowden is the one who brought this transparency, who has forced this information into the public sphere.
Well, let me answer that. Two wrongs don't make a right, and just because you have an issue with something that's happening doesn't mean that you then break the law yourself and then go give these secrets to countries all over the world.
If you see something, say something. If you
here's the question.
Go ahead, Aaron.
The only reliable watchdog is the four of us and our colleagues in the media, and that involves doing all the digging you can and cultivating sources. And yes, some of them are unsavory, and yes, some of them are lawbreakers, and one of them might be named Edward Snowden. That's not what's important. What's important is that we get the policy, enough transparency that we have at least the possibility of looking over the shoulder of both the court and the Congress and the NSA, because obviously government is not doing the job the way the president has promised.
Let me make sure we get it, because this is what, again, I go back to this Post reporting. This is what this NSA official, speaking on condition of anonymity, speaking with White House permission, this is what's out here. She said, we are a human-run agency operating in a complex environment with a number of different regulatory regimes, so at times we find ourselves on the wrong side of the line. Final thought. Ben Ferguson.
Yeah, they do find themselves on the wrong side of this one, and part of it is because I think they knew many times they were on the wrong side of it on purpose. And that is where the president should come out and say, we're wrong on this, we're going to fix it. But he seems to still be helping cover for the NSA and their abuses the way he did on Friday. And many, I would think, especially many liberal Democrats who don't like these programs in general, should be all over this issue. And they seem to be, a lot of them, including Feinstein, quiet.
Agree.
I completely agree. My final thought is simple. Edward Snowden is bringing the transparency to this. We don't know about this law breaking except for whistleblowers, and that's why you see the Obama administration trying to prosecute whistleblowers at a record level. To say to other whistleblowers, if you see illegal activity, you better shut up or you're going to face the worst kind of punishment.
So it sounds like you all disagree upon the way in which perhaps we describe Edward Snowden. The bottom line, you're all agreeing that we need more government transparency. But Ferguson, Errol Lewis, David Sirota, thank you all. 3AD.